everybody, and welcome to episode 109 of the TV Knitting Podcast. Hi, my name is Sharon, and I'm also known as Stitch Mistress pretty much everywhere on the internet. So, hey, welcome new listeners. I recently got a bunch of new listeners, I think, from Voolenvine's show, from my friend Kristen's show, and I have a story about a meetup that we had this past week, so stay tuned for that. So anyway, I have a little business to take care of before I start the main part of the show. And what I want to do is I want to welcome new people who have introduced themselves in the welcome thread on my Ravelry group page. And yeah, I have a couple people that I want to introduce. And some of you posted in the thread a few months ago, and I apologize, I've been remiss about giving everybody welcomes. So if for some reason I've forgotten you, let me know. But yeah, you can post in that thread on my group. You don't even have to join. That's fine. But yeah, I just kind of want to hear about people who listen, and thank you for posting in that thread. I really appreciate it. So, without further ado, the first welcome that I have is WIJO99 Frankwell. That's quite a Ravelry name. And that is Willie from Philly. Welcome, Willie. It's so great to have you watching. The next person is Packy Knits One, who is Heidi from Florida. Welcome, Heidi. Next is You La La, Linda from North Central Washington. Love that Ravelry name. That's adorable. And welcome, Linda. And Abba54 from Westchester, PA, and that is Damaris from Westchester, PA. So welcome, Damaris. And yeah, welcome, gals. I appreciate you introducing yourself, and thank you so much for watching and for posting in the group. So I'll do welcomes as they come up. So I also have a thank you, and that thank you is to Quilter Caroline. And Caroline is from Kent in the UK, and she kindly gifted me her latest shawl pattern. It's called the Seeds of Change shawl. This is a photo of the shawl. It's very, very pretty. I love the color that you picked, Caroline, for knitting this out of. It's really, really beautiful. That saffron yellow is just gorgeous. And it looks like it is garter stitch with eyelets and a beautiful lace border. And thank you, Caroline. That was very nice of you to gift that pattern to me. So, okay, everyone, let's get started with the main body of the show. So, I thought I'd have a finished object for you this week, but I don't, which is fine. It will be finished next week because I am pretty much almost finished. That's a little crazy. And that project is my beautiful Harry Potter inspired socks. And this yarn is by Stacy of Mustache Yarns, and it is in the sorting hat colorway. Perfectly matched because Stacy sends her balls already divided. So actually they're little mini skeins already divided up. And here they are in the balls. And it makes it very easy for you, if you pay attention, to start at the same spot for the socks. So I am pretty much done with the foot. These are huge. They are obviously not for me, but they are for my husband, Rich. And he tried them on the other day so I can see where to start the toe. And he said they fit beautifully and he really loves them. And I'm just about ready to start the toe decreases. I knit these top down on a size 2.5 millimeter needle, and it's a 40-inch, and I'm knitting them 2 at a time, magic loop. And I did about 20 rows of 2x2 rib, and then just plain stockinette, put in a fish lips kiss heel, and now I'm down to the toe decreases, and I'll just do a classic toe on these, which is decrease every other round till you get to half the stitches originally, and then you decrease every round until I usually have about 8 stitches on each needle, and then I will Kitchener the toes together. So, enjoying these very much. They are going pretty fast for me because I'm really only knitting them in the car on my commute to work. So, yeah, they're moving along very quickly. So I'm pleased. I mean, they would be done if I just sat down and took an hour to finish them, but no rush. It's actually for a knit along by Katie of Inside Number 3 podcast. She's doing a Harry Potter knit along, and since I had this in my stash and I was dying to cast on a new pair of socks, that's exactly what I did. Cast these on. So I cast them on about 3 weeks ago, and a month for me knitting socks. Not bad, because I do other things. So, very pleased with them. Okay, the next project I have on the needles, it is actually living in the same bag because I'm lazy. And this is the bag that my dear friend Donna made for me, and I love this bag. I'm really enjoying it. And it's actually all tangled up with my socks. Silly of me to keep it all in the same bag, but the pattern is Trillion by Martina Bem, who is one of my favorite designers. And not too much progress on it, but that's fine because this is a 13-week project. I really don't want to finish this before the show ends, and it's 13 weeks of the show. So this is in the Outlander colorway by Voolenvine Yarns in her Volca base. And I love it. Such gorgeous, gorgeous colors. Just beautiful, contrasting colors of orange and teal, and just gorgeous. I absolutely love this colorway. So I'm really enjoying knitting on that, and I'm knitting on that tonight because episode 3 of Outlander is going to be on this evening. And so far, I'm watching it with my husband, and we watched the first episode in real time, and then last week we watched it on the Stars app on Apple TV because we forgot that was on. So we caught up, and it's okay. I mean, I think it's a little bit gratuitous this season. I won't really say why, but it's popcorn TV. It's entertaining. We're enjoying it. It's fun to watch together. Speaking of gratuitous, tomorrow evening there will be the premiere of Game of Thrones, which I am beyond excited about because that is a show that my entire family watches, and I think the 4 of us will sit down and watch together. Emily is definitely not caught up, but she won't care. She'll just watch the show anyway with us. And I'm looking forward to that. So I will knit on that during Game of Thrones as well. So, because it's such easy knitting, I'm not going to call it mindless because you definitely have to think about each row and what you're doing. But I memorized it very easily, and it's just fabulous for that. Just you can take it anywhere and just knit on it and not have to worry about looking at a pattern. It's awesome. It's funny, I brought it to Knit Night the other night, and my friends at Knit Night think I'm like a knitting wizard or whatever. And so I pulled it out and showed it to them and started knitting on it. And they said, "Where's your pattern? You don't need a pattern?" And I said, "No." I said, "Oh, I didn't bring the pattern with me to show you what it is." And they said, "You didn't bring your pattern? How do you know where you are?" And I said, "Because it's easy. It's a 2-row repeat. I memorized it." And they were just amazed by that, which is, I think, kind of funny. It's not that hard to memorize this one. I mean, if it was a 12-row repeat, yeah, which I'll talk about that in a few minutes, but so that's that. Okay, so the next thing I'm working on is this gorgeous, gorgeous shawl, which is coming together before my eyes. This is Peace Blossom by Boo Knits, and it's stunning. I really, really love it. I am on the edging rows, and they are completely crazy. I mean, look at all that lace. And if you notice right here, I put in a lifeline of a contrasting color because it's just so involved. Well, it's not the most involved lace I've ever knit, and I could fix it easily by ripping without a lifeline, but I don't want to. I already ripped it out once without a lifeline, and it wasn't fun. I can do it, but it's much easier to rip if you have a lifeline. So I probably will install a lifeline after the next repeat that I do, and I'll probably install one every 4 rows moving forward. And I am on, let's see, I'm starting row 3 of chart 6, and I have 11 rows to go on chart 6. It's going to take me all week because it's taking me about 2 hours to do a row because of all the beading, and to do a right side row because of all the beading. But I don't mind. This is the kind of knitting that I love. I'm not gonna lie, the initial part of this was boring. I was really kind of bored with it. But what I'm working on now is amazing because each row is different and each repeat is different on the lace edging, and I completely love it. So it's my kind of knitting. I love lace knitting. I think it's probably my favorite type of knitting. You're not going to see me do a lot of color work and, that type of thing. I am more into the lacy kind of knitting. So it's my favorite. So speaking of multiple repeats, I continued working on the Big Old Coat pattern by Joji Locatelli. And I am almost halfway down to the bottom of the sweater. So if you see from the armhole, that's about 7.5 inches. So halfway would be 9 inches. I have to knit 18 inches. It's long. I may shorten it. I'll just try it on and see how it fits. But yeah, it's great. Great pattern. It's got a beautiful big shawl collar on it. See? And it's fabulous. And I'm really only getting 2 rows a night on it. And I'll explain why in a minute. But yeah, it's coming along really well. It's coming along quickly for the amount of time I'm spending on it, but I am really enjoying it. So after I finish those socks, you're not likely to see a finished object from me for a while. And if you tune into this podcast to see a finished object every week, you're watching the wrong show. Because I don't know if you've noticed, but by now, but I tend to knit large projects. I am not a small project knitter. I don't consider socks to be a small project because of the amount of stitching involved in a sock. I would consider a hat a small project, gloves a small project, unless they're knit out of fingering weight, wristers, that kind of thing. And I tend to go for the big things, and so that's why you don't see a finished object every week, even though I knit quite a bit. And I also, as you can see, I have different types of knitting. I have car knitting, I have knitting. The lace knitting is what I do in the morning when, before I'm too tired. I wouldn't do lace knitting at night. I know I would mess it up. So, yeah, I have lots of different projects on the go, even though I kind of consider myself a monogamous knitter because I really only like to work on tops 4 projects at a time, actively. So I have the socks, the sweater, the shawl, and the other shawl right now that I'm actively working on. 2 shawls, a sweater, and a pair of socks. That's actually a lot for me. So my point being behind this is right now, except for these socks, which are a knit along, I will not be completing anything until after May 27th. And you may ask me, why is such a specific date? And that is because that is the date of Stash Dash. And every year I have, since they've had it, I might have missed the first year, but I like to participate in the Knit Girls in Stash Dash. It starts this year on May 27th and it ends sometime toward the end of August. So like 3 months. It's a 3-month knit along. And it's just fun. It's quite a challenge. I mean, a lot of people in the knitting community participate, and it's just, I don't know, it's really designed to get you to finish things that have been languishing. And last year I finished a blanket that was 6,000 yards. Crazy. And I really pushed myself to finish that for Stash Dash, even though I didn't make my goal. I wanted to finish 10,000 yards for Stash Dash last year, and I didn't make it. I finished just over 8,000, and she actually counts it by meters, which is, so you would have to knit a little more yardage to get the meter. So the meters are more. So, so 10,000 meters of yarn was a lot more yardage. So it was over 10,000 yards of yarn. But anyway, I only did a little over 8,000 meters. So that was pretty good in 8K. So you can enter at all levels. You can do a 3K, you can do a 5K, and a 7K, a 10K, and for those insane people, a 15K. Like Mina could do a 15K. She could do that in a month. But anyway, I'm going to do the 7K this year. I have lots of projects on the go, and I should start with quite a bit of yardage or meterage when Stash Dash starts, because I will be just about finished with the beaded shawl. The big old coat should be coming along fairly nicely. I should be almost finished with the body of that. And I have some more socks that I'm working on. And then I'll show you my spinning later on. But anyway, so my plan, this is my plan. I always have to have a goal or a plan. So I'm going to finish this chart. Let's see. This has 9 charts. So I'm going to finish 8 charts. And then I'm going to leave chart 9 for May 27th. It's probably going to take me a few days to do chart 9 because it's got lots of beads. So I won't be finishing that shawl till the end of May, which is totally fine. Speaking of beads, I forgot to mention this when I was talking about the shawl. As I was knitting the shawl the other day and loading my beads onto my dental floss, which is how I add beads, and I'll try and insert a picture of me knitting in this episode so you can, or a video of me knitting so you can see. So I use the dental floss threader to add beads. And as I was threading, this is how many beads I have left. Not enough beads. Because, I mean, one repeat is taking, see where my finger is? Or one row is taking like that many beads above my finger. Yeah, I'm going to run out of beads. So I went online to the vendor whom I purchased the beads from and found the beads out of stock. So then I did another search and I found another vendor, and I ordered the beads on Thursday, and I ordered them from Aura Crystals. It's an internet online shop. I had the beads today. I mean, well, it came from New Hampshire, so that's pretty close to New York. But wow, incredible. And it was first class shipping. I mean, just regular first class mail, not priority. So I ordered the beads Thursday when I realized I was running out. They came today. So that's incredible customer service. So I got another 600 beads, which I don't think I need 600 more, but better be safe than sorry. You only want to pay for shipping once. And I love the color of these beads, so I wouldn't mind using them in something else another time. So, sorry, off on a little tangent with the beads. So anyway, let's move along. So the reason why I'm not getting a lot of progress done on the big old coat is because I have been really trying to get some spinning done. So I'm working on the never-ending spinning project, and that is my Into the World Superwash Merino Silk Blend. And look, I am making lots and lots of progress on this. So I weighed today what I had left, and I am down to 1.5 ounces, 45 grams, or 48 grams. And this is all I have left. And that's a great improvement from where I was before. I mean, you can pretty much see I'm pretty much done with the yellow-orange parts of it, and I only have the purple left to go. So I am super, super excited. So speaking of spinning, I had a question in the Ask the Stitch Mistress thread on my Ravelry group. So Lady Fringe asks, "Hi, loving your podcast. Do you use a lace flyer on your Hansen? How do you manage to spin so fine?" And I really have never had problems spinning fine. And I actually have a high-speed whirl on my matchless spinning wheel, and I really can't even use that high-speed whirl because I tend to over twist. So I pretty much use, I can't even remember the ratio that I use to spin fine, but I pretty much use a regular ratio. I do not have a lace flyer on my Hansen. I'm just using the regular flyer. And I think it just has to do with the way I draft the fiber. And it also has to do with, in this case, the fiber has silk in it, and silk likes to be spun fine. So when I draft the fiber, I'm using a short forward draw. So I'm keeping my hands just a staple length's distance away. If I went back into the, see, I keep my hands like this far away, just pretty close together. If I went back into the fiber supply farther, I probably would have more control over the diameter if I wanted to spin a thicker yarn. So if I wanted to spin a thicker yarn, so I would move my hand back, and then I could grab more fiber for drafting. But I'm just keeping my hands really close together, so I just draft a tiny, tiny bit. And I'm going pretty fast because I have the Hansen. I don't know what RPM I'm on because I don't have that. I don't think he's even made that tool yet for the Hansen that you can tell what RPM you're on. But I'm going pretty fast. It's spinning pretty fast as it is. I don't think I even need a lace flyer. So it's going really fast, and I just draft really, really quickly to get it on, just to get enough twist in it so it doesn't over twist. Like I don't want to hold it too much back here because I don't want it to over twist. So I just go really quick to get it on, and that's how I'm spinning it. If you watch JC Boggs' video on Craftsy, and I forget the name of it, but it's the one where she goes through all the different kinds of drafting. She recommends that if you want a thicker yarn to move your hand back here. And then if you want to spin across the top, you do that as well. And I do not spin across the top, which means, say you have a nice thick piece of fiber, and so you're gonna start on the end, and then you're gonna spin all the way across here. I can do it, but I don't really like to because I'm lazy and I don't feel like practicing. So in order to do that, I'd have to move my hand back, and I don't get as much control over spinning fine, if that makes any sense. So what I usually do is you can see I ripped all of this braid apart. So I'll take a thick piece. This is a piece of braid. So I'll take this piece and I'll separate it like that. So I don't have like a skinny piece. I guess it's called stripping. So I'll just strip it apart. So I have a piece that's much more manageable for me to spin the way I spin. Almost like what I would take for a spindle. Like I would probably take this much to spin on a spindle. So it works for me. I do not pre-draft. A lot of people pre-draft when they spin. I know that Karen from Round the Twist, I've watched her podcast for a very long time. She's not spinning at the moment, but there was one podcast where she was saying, she showed how she does it. She gently pulls it apart, pulls it apart, pulls it apart until she gets nice long strips that are pre-drafted. I do not pre-draft. I don't really like it. I can't even really explain to you why I don't like it, but I just feel that when I pre-draft, I don't like how the fibers are all loosey-goosey in the pre-draft, and it makes it harder for me to draft the fiber. For me. Other people, your mileage may vary. So no, I don't pre-draft at all. I just leave it how it came, and I draft from the ends for this type of spinning. If I was going to spin this yarn I'm spinning is very compacted. I'm spinning it worsted style. It's not entirely worsted. It's not perfect worsted because I might let a teeny weeny bit of twist into the drafting zone. Not that much, but maybe I do. I don't know. But it's pretty compacted, and what I'm aiming for is a very drapey yarn, not poofy. It's more sleek and drapey with this style. So, if I was going to spin this in a woolen style, this is comb top. So I couldn't spin from the end really effectively. I could in a woolen style, but it would be lumpy and bumpy and gross. So a better way to spin it would be to spin from the fold, where I would just fold the fiber. What I would do is I'd pull out a staple length, and then I would fold it like that, and then spin off the tip of my finger. Another way I could do it is I could run it through a drum carder, which would disorganize these fibers and make a bat and spin it that way, woolen. I could put it on a blending board, and that's pretty much getting almost the same thing as spinning a bat. You're going to disorganize the fibers. I could roll them into rollags and then spin them. It's almost like spinning from the fold, see, because it's going to be curled and folded over. So that's a lot of spinning talk. I didn't plan on doing today, but that's okay. Sometimes I just go off. So anyway, that's a very long, drawn-out answer to your question of how I spin so fine. And that's why I did not order a lace flyer on my Hansen. I know that Chrissy from the Snappy Stitches podcast uses a lace flyer, and she spins beautifully. Oh my gosh, her spinning is gorgeous. And she gets great results. So I don't know if it would make me a faster spinner. I don't think I want to spin much finer than this because this is taking me a really long time. I really prefer to spin woolen. And one of these days I'm going to get a blending board and or a drum carder. One of these days. But I'm spending all my money on camera equipment. So those things are in the far future. Anyway, so that's it for what I've been working on. So let's talk about what I have been stashing, and I'll tell you some stash stories. So I have a good stash story this week. So before I tell you this stash story, I just want to share something that I purchased at my LYS. And my LYS is Out of the Loop Yarn Shop in Hopewell Junction, New York. And that's where I teach on Monday nights. And occasionally I'll teach a class there. And I basically get yarn for free. But, I obviously work for it. She pays me in yarn most of the time. And I had shown you this skein a few weeks ago. And this is Fino by Manos del Uruguay. And I decided to pick up another skein of it. I'm going to hold it back here. I think the colors are better back here. Yeah, it's a blushy peach, pink, peach more. And it's gorgeous. I love peach. And it really called to me. And the reason why I bought another skein is because I want to make this crazy shawl. And this shawl is the Lace Eater shawl. And I do not know who designed the shawl, but it's called the Lace Eater. If you're interested, just look it up on Ravelry. And isn't this going to be beautiful? I mean, it's just cool. And the owner of the LYS, Teresa, enabled me because she saw that shawl and she pointed the shawl out to me, and I said, I have to make that. So that's why I got the two skeins. So on to my fun stash story. So last Saturday, I had made plans with my friend Kristen from Voolenvine Yarns to meet up in Poughkeepsie and walk on the Walkway. So I live in a northern suburb of New York City. I live just south of Poughkeepsie, New York. I live in a small town called Wappingers Falls, New York. And it's about a 15-minute drive up to Poughkeepsie and about an hour and a half ride, hour and 40 minutes to New York City from my town. And I very rarely go to the city, maybe once a year, maybe twice if you drag me down there kicking and screaming. But I do enjoy Poughkeepsie. Poughkeepsie has some fun places to eat. It's right on the Hudson River. It has beautiful views. And my husband and I spend a bit of time up there. So Kristen had wanted to come. I had posted a picture back in February or March where my husband and I went on the Walkway over the Hudson, which is a very famous walkway. I think it's one of the largest walkways built over a river. I don't know. I have to look up that information. But it was an old railroad bridge that they converted into a state park. And it's the Walkway over the Hudson. And it's about a little over a mile each way to walk. And it's just breathtaking. The views are beautiful. So Kristen saw the picture on Instagram and she said, "Oh, I want to come up and do the walkway." So she took the train from the city last Saturday. We met for lunch at a great restaurant called the Ice House, and we had a great time. Kristen and I just hit it off. I mean, hey, Kristen, we just had so much fun. It was just great. We just talked about everything. We just had a lovely conversation, great lunch. And then there's an elevator pretty much next to the Ice House restaurant up to the walkway. And I really wanted to take Kristen up on the elevator, but unfortunately, the elevator was closed for service, which happens quite a bit. I mean, if you can imagine, it's huge. It's this huge steel elevator that goes really high up to the top of the walkway. It's super cool. But so we couldn't go on the elevator, but I drove around to a little parking lot that I know of that you can park at, and then you can just jump on the walkway at the Poughkeepsie end. So we went on the walkway, had a great walk. It was hot. Kristen had on her giant cabled sweater. She was dying at the end. It was really, really hot up there that day. But it was a great walk. So we walked 2 miles both ways. And then we hopped in my car and went over to a little yarn shop in town in Poughkeepsie on Main Street, and it's called, appropriately, Walkway Wools. And the store has been open about 7 months, and the proprietor of the store is a hand dyer. And I had walked into the store, and I'm looking at some of the skeins hanging up, and the name on the skeins was Mother Frogging Yarns, and I said, I've never heard of Mother Frogging Yarns. Not that I'm a yarn expert, but I've heard of a lot of yarns, and I hadn't heard of that one. So I was like, what are these yarns? Mother Frogging Yarns. So as we walked through the store, we saw some yarns hanging on a rack that were drying, and we asked the owner, Kristen said, "Are these hand dyed?" And she said, "Yes, they're my work." So she is the creator of Mother Frogging Yarns, and she dyes beautiful, beautiful yarn. So we had a nice chat with her and shopped a little bit in the store, and we both bought a skein of Mother Frogging Yarns, and her prices are really reasonable too. I mean, I got this skein. It's 50% silk, 50% superwash merino, 438 yards. So silk merino blend. Stunning. Just super beautiful. I mean, look at those beachy colors. It's called the Nebula Sheen colorway, and I just fell in love with it. It's got all my favorites in it because I love purples and teals, and it's got this really nice, like olivey green in here. It's cool. So I'm thinking of making another trillion, and maybe I'll increase the eyelet section here, which I think would be easy to do to modify the pattern. So gorgeous. And Kristen got a skein also, and if you have seen her show, you've seen her show off her skein. And we just had a lovely day. So after that, Kristen took the train home, and I took the I took the car home. I could take the train up to Poughkeepsie. My husband would have to drop me off at the train station, but I drove. So anyway, Great day. Great stash story. So I would like to do that again. And anybody who ever wants to join me on the Walkway of the Hudson, just PM me. We were supposed to meet Carlene from the Carlenergy podcast, and she just couldn't make it that day. She was busy doing things with her boyfriend, so that was kind of a bummer, but oh well. All right, so that's pretty much it for my show today. I hope you guys had a great week, and I hope you have a wonderful week coming up ahead. I opened my screen porch last Sunday, and I adore my screen porch. I have a small screen porch off of my living room, and it's one of my favorite places to hang out and knit. It's just lovely out there. And I actually tried recording out there, or I did a little test swatch recording, and it's just not feasible to record out there because it is extremely noisy. I live on a main road, and for some reason, the sound of the cars going by gets amplified out on that porch. And even though I have pretty good microphone that's only supposed to record my voice, there's still background sound that I really can't cut out with my editing software, so bummer. But anyway, that's the way it goes. So, again, I hope you all have a wonderful week ahead, and I will see. Oh, and I just wanted to mention one more thing. It just popped into my head. Since I got a whole bunch of new viewers this week, I am leaving the giveaway thread open one more week. You can win this beautiful skein of Voolenvine yarns. In the Jilted Rose colorway in the Volca base. Just tell me what you would like to knit out of this, and then tell me what I should knit out of my skein of Voolenvine yarns in the Stellar Banshee colorway. And the pictures will all be up in the thread. So just enter in that thread, and I promise, a week from today I will do the drawing. So that's that. I'm glad I remembered that because I almost forgot. Have a great week. I'll see you next week. Cheers.